Hello, welcome back to another episode of Somewhere Between a Film and TV podcast. We're your host. I am Daniel Parra.
And I'm Erwin Trejo.
And number one, thank you so much for listening and watching. Number two, what are they going to do?
They're going to like, comment, and subscribe.
Please do.
Actually, I don't know the order. I don't know.
It's usually like subscribe, like, comment.
Oh.
And this one's a big one. Keep in mind, this is going to have full spoilers. If you have not seen Joker Folie À Deux, which is how you pronounce it.
I've seen Joker.
We have both seen it, both of them. And we're going to get fully into this movie, subject of a lot of topic, and we have our own things to say about it. If you're here to experience a trashing of this movie, we are not going to do that, though, because we actually do have some positive things to say about it, believe it or not.
Wow, spoilers.
And spoilers, but
we're spoiling.
Let's go ahead and get into this.
Okay, yeah.
Erwin, what is Joker Folie À Deux about?
Wait, I thought we were going to do the somewhere between do you love it or do you hate it?
Okay, let's do that first then. Erwin, with this movie, did you love it? Did you hate it? Or are you somewhere between?
Somewhere between.
Yeah? So, why? What is your overall takeaway of this movie?
I liked it. I liked it a lot, but I do have a few issues. Not a lot of issues, but I do have a lot of... Okay, I said it a lot. I have a few issues with the movie. That just takes it away from me.
Yeah.
But overall, I like it.
And with me, I'm going to be honest with you guys here, as someone who loves the first movie.
Who's a Joker
himself. I thought this was really, really good. Almost kind of verging on great. I think that there's a lot of things to love here. Honestly, you know what? No, I'm talking myself up here. It's great. I do think it is. And it has some pretty big issues. Don't get me wrong. We'll get into it. If you don't fully respond to this movie, I do also understand that as well. But Erwin, what is Joker Folie À Deux about?
All right, let me read this. Struggling with his dual identity, failed comedian Arthur Fleck meets the love of his life, Harley Quinn, while incarcerated at Arkham State Hospital.
Okay. So let's kick this off by asking you, what are the standouts to you here? What did you love about this?
You.
Me? I'm not in it.
I'm not in this movie. The movie. Gary Puddles. And
okay,
we'll get a big scene about his last name.
We'll get into the biggest, like the best scene in this movie to me.
Okay, but it's just the entirety of just him saying, "Your last name is Puddles," as if I wouldn't say that.
And then he scratches it out because he's like defending himself, and you're like, that man did not have anything prepared.
The standouts for me are just Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck once again.
Yeah.
Everything that has to do with the trial, I love all that aspect too, and I would also say every time certain parts where they would try to balance the fantasy aspects of Joker, but not including the musical aspects.
Because,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
You liked some of the delusion, but not all of the musical numbers themselves. Yes. I see. Okay. And we have gone over this before. I want to clarify.
And the movie itself is visually stunning. There's so many shots where... the one where it's just him staring at the camera... And it was through the recording.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah. I agree with you on a lot of this, except for the fact that we're going to disagree here more than normal. And that's also going to happen in our other review of Megalopolis.
It happens quite often, actually.
Yeah. But I do think this movie is visually phenomenal. I thought that...
breathtaking. Number one movie in the world.
Lawrence Sher, who did the cinematography for this, as well as the first one, I think does a great job. I love the
Sausy
look
beats.
I love the look of both of these. And I think that there's a real craft here with the cinematography. I agree with you on that. But I did like the musical numbers in this movie, although I do think that it does kind of affect some of the pacing issues with me as well in it.
Yes.
And I think that with this, we need a preface. What did you think of the first one?
The first one I really love. I thought that the build-up and the tension from the very beginning to the movie to the very end showcases a lot of how just basically what the main ideas were from the first one and how the character itself was just brought up from his way of living and how society from his perspective changed him and how he became.
Yeah.
So I really love the first one a lot.
No, I do too, and I also like the concept that this movie's critiquing the first one and what people think of it as well. Because there are some people that had certain takeaways with it, that had things that I did not get out of it, that they also incorporate into this as well. And I do think that Joaquin Phoenix, again, is amazing. I feel like it's kind of a given that the performances here are...
Oh, yeah. Every time he's in a movie, he's just great. So.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about Beau is Afraid, and then like how that...
Oh, dude. There was the scene where he was running through the city. I thought of Beau is Afraid.
Yeah, because it's like that sort of weird, unstructured kind of chaos.
Dirty.
Yeah. The dirty amounts of Gotham. That's how it feels sometimes, though. Because... I thought this movie had a lot to say about the idea of mental health, the exploitation of mental health, and a lot of the critiques on how people kind of make the sensationalism of it as well.
I think because the at least with the first one, they didn't really showcase how in the second one they do it a lot more so, and especially how the director do it this time, where the duality of two different personas.
Yeah.
Because in the first one, it felt like it was just one built-up persona the entire time.
Yeah.
And basically him just changing into that one persona, and that was it. While in the second one, it was just, you're just dealing with both at the same time. And you kind of realize that through the musical numbers, or him just having like these fantasy or like these dreams with Harley Quinn as well.
No, and the beginning of this also touches on that. I think that this movie's very clearly telling you what it's about pretty much right off the bat. They have that Looney Tunes inspired cartoon.
I love that cartoon.
That was great.
That was great.
And how it sort of plays off the fact that they used to play those Looney Tunes cartoons before movies, but this was incorporated into it itself. And it was called like My Shadow and Myself or something like that. But getting into more of the specifics of what the stuff that touches on like with mental health in this, and did you like the prison stuff in it? Because really this movie takes place in like, I want to say two places.
Overall I did like the prison stuff as well. Some of it felt slow, and I don't know if I want to get to like the negatives yet, but there's some aspects I did love and enjoy, especially like seeing the other prisoners being inspired by the Joker himself, or not even Joker, because most of the time you have to have distinguish Arthur Fleck and then Joker. Yeah. And a lot of people were inspired by Joker and not by Arthur Fleck.
Because I think that this movie is making commentary on the fact that like we are going to get into the ending and what we think of it, but that should probably be its own like subject of conversation once we're done with the positives and negatives here. But with that, I think that something that's really interesting about this movie's structure is whenever he reveals in that court case stuff that he's like, I have just been putting up a front after I was going to come in here, and
that was quite revealing. I'm not going to lie. I did not expect the character himself to basically, to me, it was a 180. Yeah. Because it felt like the entirety of that movie, it was a build up to him basically still having that same persona, how it ended in the first one. Yeah. But to completely change and just going like, no, like this isn't like who I am and everything. I was like what you said, like affected by these other things that made me have this persona that I have now.
No, now I do think that this does deal with the idea of subversion, of expectation, what people want out of a movie like this. And this movie, there's directly a scene in the middle with Lady Gaga where she says, I don't think we're giving the people what they want. It's in the middle of the movie. Yeah. You do know what they're going for because they do address it. And I think it's asking you almost kind of like intentionally to be like, hey, pay attention to the fact that we are following someone that deals with mental health issues and see if you can get on board with trying to sympathize with that person, even though you were promised something else.
And I think the reason why a lot of people, dislike or even hate this movie is because they still see the front cover of it just being Joker, DC Comics related. Yeah. And they think they added more things to it where it's like the world itself, the universe itself, the comic itself to the movie. And it's so much more than that. It's focused on a character. Because honestly, if it didn't have the Joker, it can just be like Clown Face Man.
No, like genuinely.
And then it's just trying to balance out everything like this. And it didn't look like the Joker in the comics, or like have certain like reference, because there's some references you saw, right?
Yeah, like Harvey Dent's in it, and then,
like if you didn't have characters that were named from like the Batman universe, too, and it was just some random others names, people would have different opinions, I would believe.
No, and you have essentially what's an Elseworlds story where really the names here are DC, but it's related in an adjacent way where it's kind of, I don't really know what people's expectations were based off of the trailer, though.
No, I didn't know either. I mean, I thought it was going to be a whole musical number.
Yeah, and then, I mean, that'll probably tie more into your negatives, I assume, but I thought the way in which this movie handles itself, I think is kind of daring and bold in the sense of,
You said daring, I said devil.
Yeah, like a comic book character?
Yeah.
Just like the Joker.
Am I funny?
Can we talk
Why
about?
do you pause?
Can we talk about the courtroom scene and how, like, because I do want to say that this movie, it is dark, it is sad. I do think that it honestly ends not on a happy note at all. It does not. And the fact that this is sort of where Todd Phillips has chosen to be like, no, that's the story. Like, we're done here. It's just 2 movies. And the way some people are like, oh, he only did that because he's mad that everybody is mad at this movie.
Why? Why would he change the ending?
I don't know how people. The way sometimes people think how movies are made doesn't make any sense to me. Where it's like they made a musical on accident. I'm like, what are you talking about?
They made this movie for months, like a year or 2 ago, and they're just releasing it now.
And I do think that this is essentially a commentary on itself. I think it's also kind of, it incorporates critique of how people consume true crime with like how they sensationalize, and some people have a weird kind of attachment with,
or like sexualize like the certain
like Dahmer,
serial killer,
because that's Lady Gaga's character in this. And I guess I don't know if that's going to tie more into your positives or negatives here, but I do want to ask you what you think of the Lee character in general.
The lead character?
Yeah, Lee.
Oh, Lee. Yeah. I was like,
no,
not
like
Lee,
the lead.
I was like, we were just talking about it the entire time.
No, Lady Gaga.
Okay. Oh yeah, Lee.
Yeah.
How do I say this? I think Lady Gaga's great. I love her music.
Yeah.
And everything, and she does a great job when it comes to the musical numbers in this movie. But honestly, the more time, like I've been thinking about it too, it's one of those things too where I just don't think maybe she was even necessarily need to be there the entire time too. Like I can see her just being the one to like help push Arthur Fleck and just like the Joker side mostly, and just showcase that aspect. Yes, but other than that, it's just like, why does she have so much to say or do? Especially with the musical number aspect, because it's like, oh well, this is Lady Gaga, and so she has to sing, and she's a great singer.
She's an amazing singer.
So I'm just like, it makes sense, but overall, like in the movie itself, I just didn't see like the purpose of her.
And for me, I don't have that takeaway. I thought she was great in this. I thought she's essentially the audience character, where they're like, you know that
I guess like half the audience, or like a certain audience, where it's like, this is not what I wanted.
Yeah. You know that meme that's like, come on, do something, like with the stick and the guy. That's what she reminds me of. Where it's essentially Arthur Fleck like sitting there. It's like, come on, be the Joker.
Be the Joker. I can see that.
Yeah, and I do think that she's kind of doing it just for her own self.
Her own benefit.
Yeah, own benefit as well. And there's even that scene where anything that this movie throws at you and you dislike, it's not a defense, but I think the movie knows it. I think the movie is almost kind of being like us, but we're going to go for our own thing. It reminded me of the Matrix sequel that everybody hated a couple of years ago. That I like that movie too.
Yeah, I don't remember what did I say.
You thought it was okay. You thought that the middle was really like laggy.
Okay.
And I remember you saying you liked more what it was going for than like.
Oh, than what it actually did. Yeah.
And this is another one of those subversion of expectation things, and I do know for a fact we love musicals.
Oh, I love musicals. Yeah. I love a good musical.
And while this one has elements, but also not, I will say it has enough music that it's pissing off the people that hate musicals. And because I was sitting next to a guy that was so mad about it the entire time.
In the trailer, there was music. What the heck?
No, people sang in that. That's why I was so confused. But with that tying into Lady Gaga, I do think that she is the audience character of like the come on, where's the thing that we're here for?
Yeah.
What people were there for, I don't really know.
I don't know. I feel like I already got that too.
With the first one.
Not even just from the first one, but I'm saying like the other characters around, like the prison the prison guard, not the prison guards, like the prisoners
who are great in this, by the way. But yeah,
like that one guy he meets.
Oh, the one that's like his sidekick, kind of.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
like that was like a resemblance of like the Joker possessing, right? And just like how much aura the Joker had.
Like the Crow. The Joker has aura.
Has aura.
Yeah.
And like how he's able to like just control and like have the ability to get an audience.
Yeah.
And it also showcases that outside the courtroom too. And you see like this hordes of people too waiting for the Joker to come out.
And they're essentially pushing their own agendas onto him without ever actually getting to know the character itself.
Yes.
This movie does have a lot to say about that in particular, about using people for your own benefit to get what you want to say out there.
Yeah, that's what I do with you.
You put words in my mouth? Or the other way around?
Oh, so you do that to me?
I've never done that to you.
What?
See, comment if you agree with me.
Dislike if you agree with me.
Oh, man. No, like the video. But with that, I do also want to ask you what you thought, and this might veer off into more of the negative, but let's go ahead and go there.
Okay.
Do you like the music in this, or did you have a problem with it?
I like the music with Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a big fan of Arthur or like Joaquin Phoenix singing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was that good in my opinion.
Yeah.
But my issue with the music was just how it started and the tonal shifts, because it's understandable what it's trying to be, where it's just you're being in that thing where Arthur Fleck is coping.
Yeah.
And using like these fantasy world and like or like this imaginative thing in his mind of like being in a musical.
Yeah.
In order for him to like get through these tough times that he's going through. But it's just a tonal shift for me. It just happened so fast, or it just didn't work well in my eyes.
Yeah.
So.
For me, I do like the songs in this. I think it was sort of tangential to how the story itself is playing out. I do think that it is structured like the first one. It's just the fact that this time in his delusions, they're singing.
Yeah.
And
well, because in the first one it was like dancing.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, but it's also, I don't know. I think in the first one they made it so smooth, and I think it's because you didn't really see a lot of background changes.
Yeah.
And it was just still in the same world.
Well, that scene is iconic now, where he's in the bathroom and it's dancing
or in the staircase dancing.
Yeah.
But those were still in the same semblance of that or like that same world, right? And I think in this new one, a lot of times where it just changes.
But to me, I feel like he's coping even harder, and maybe it's the delusions are getting grander. I finally figured out what folie à deux meant, and it's a shared delusion between two people. And
see, and I didn't really get the balance of both Harley Quinn and Arthur Fleck.
No, I think she seemed more composed than he did, and I do think that, because they say that she's doing it for her own benefit anyway, and I do like the incorporation of the TV movie thing they keep bringing up as well with that, because sort of off like topic of that, but the scene whenever they're in the courtroom, he's like, Zazie Beetz' character is like, that movie's awful, and then he turns around, he's like, he's like, no, it isn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I thought all of that was really...
my favorite thing what she said was when Arthur Fleck he goes through like that fantasy moment again.
Oh, that's
just music.
I know you don't love the music, but I do think that musical number is amazing.
Okay.
Like,
well, I mean, okay, either way, right? But when he comes back,
to
Arthur Fleck again, and or no, I think he's wearing makeup, so he's Joker.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So he's Joker now, and Zazie Beetz is like, his mom said he didn't have a girlfriend, and he's still probably a virgin.
Yeah,
and I thought it was just really funny because that was just out of nowhere.
No,
because a lot of times in this movie, there's a lot of good jokes.
Yeah, I do think it does have a kind of sense of humor about itself. The moment whenever he's like, this is going to be worth a lot whenever they kill him, and then he says, I hope you get cancer on there, or the other. There's multiple stuff in the courtroom thing as well. Whenever there's like a kind of Simpsons level bit when they we talked about it, he scratches off the name.
Oh, for the puddles?
Yeah. Which I love that scene.
Yeah, that scene was great.
Yeah.
There's just so many great scenes on their own.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times to me where it's just the musical aspect, it just didn't hit well with the scenes that were happening beforehand.
And I read a critique that somebody said it felt like a fever dream every time they were dropped in. However, my defense of that, because I don't fully agree with you on that, is that, yeah, I feel like it's supposed to. Occasionally it does get a little bit too unstructured for its own good. That does kind of tie into my issues with this movie, which I think, by the way, please see if you're going to like comment or critique it at all in the first place.
I agree. You should watch the movie because I think you'd be surprised too of how like certain things that you would love about this movie.
You could hate it.
Yeah.
You could hate it, but
or love it.
Yeah.
Or
you could be somewhere between.
Nice.
Great job, man. Yeah.
Sorry.
But with that, is there any other negatives that you have here as well?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I can't think of anything right now.
Then I guess I could touch on my one big one, I guess. This movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I do feel it just a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I do think the first one is paced kind of slow as well. It makes me wonder what on earth people got out of that first one in the first place. I wish we got
to know more about Harley, or like Lee Quinn. I just feel like if she was established more than just being as as a character to like enable Joker.
I do also wish that, but I feel like if we got that, then we don't get that idea that she's this... She keeps repeating this same line that literally makes no sense, where they're like, what are you going to do once you get out? She's like, well, we're going to build a mountain out of like a hill or something like that.
Do you know what that... I don't know what that meant.
It's
supposed to mean...
Literally nothing. I think that it is intentionally like, we don't know.
Yeah.
They're chasing... This feeling, and she even says it, that's all we ever had was the fantasy at the end of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if this movie ended the way that Arthur Fleck would have wanted, they would have walked off into the sunset, and then that would have been it. What they would have done after, we don't know. They probably don't know either. Yes. And there's a scene that is hilarious in there as well, whenever she's like, I set up your apartment so you can live there. He's like, I don't want to live there. And I do also want to touch back on the thesis of this movie that's at the beginning, but it's also in the scene with, I think his name is Lee Gill, from the first movie, where I thought was amazing. The entire courtroom scene where he's doing like a Foghorn Leghorn impression and he's interrogating the Puddles guy is the best scene in the movie. I think
agree,
that, yeah. Because that movie does have a lot of stuff now that's kind of considered iconic. That's... Whether you like that first movie or not, I think this movie can acknowledge some of the flaws that people even had with it. I do think that's part of why they made this in the first place, was to touch on like, yeah, we know what we did wrong or right, or what you might dislike about that. I loved that movie, but I also loved this one. I do think that they match each other well. I know some people don't think that.
I don't think that.
Really?
No.
Wait, why not?
I don't think it matches well just because of the added stuff with the musical and then Lee Quinn as well.
Yeah.
I just think it takes away from just a continuation of Joker himself. I do love the fact of just the two identities fighting with one another of Arthur Fleck and Joker. But no, like, I mean, it's so you still get that same feeling of that same world. Yeah. But it's just there's like a different direction with it.
No, and there's a couple of great scenes with that for me where he's trying to chase that persona for Joker again. Yeah. But it's not hitting for him. It's like that scene whenever he's out in the rain and he's like kind of crying, laughing. And then the scene where he's trying to laugh in the police car on the way there, but he can't quite get it anymore. And I do think that's the moment whenever he's like, I think for me, that's whenever he sort of processes like, oh, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't think that's kind of what my takeaway was from it. But there is a huge controversy surrounding the ending of this movie.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
And I want to ask you what you thought of it.
Dude, I did not expect that.
And what you thought it meant as well.
Let's just say what the ending is first.
Okay, so what happens at the end... By the way, I do not think that's Heath Ledger's Joker. I don't know why people are saying that.
Who's saying that?
A lot of people are like, can you believe that's the Heath Ledger Joker at the end? Because I guess he carves a smile into himself. And I do think there's something to be said for like off-screen violence that feels really impactful sometimes. Yes. Like when they kill his friend off-screen and you can see that slit over him with the lighting and he's just like sort of shocked. I think that that's amazing. But what happens at the end of this is the guy that you can kind of see him off-screen or like off to the side throughout a lot of the movie. He keeps making this weird smile and then I didn't really know where that was going. And he, at the end of this, the guard obviously probably set him up whenever they said he had a visitor, because really who would be visiting Arthur Fleck in the first place, right? At that point in time.
Okay, and that's where I was thinking, I was like, you would think it would be Lee again. just to be like that, you know, the enabler of like, maybe if I can get Joker out one last time.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But then, of course, it didn't happen that way. And it was just, I think it's just like those, like the consequences of being such a powerful, like, entity.
Yeah.
Towards, like, this whole crowd.
Because
and, like, the way he felt.
It was a martyr, right?
Yes.
Like, it was putting the own idea of Gotham is known for anarchy and known for all of that and all of its previous iterations, but here they're putting it on just one guy that like sparked all of that. And I don't know if it was a mistake or not to include all the Waynes and stuff in the first one, but that's not really in this one.
Yeah.
But touching back on the ending, what happens is he tells this joke, and honestly, where I thought it was going is I thought that guy was somehow gonna have a gun and say, "Oh, like a shot with the bar." That joke he was making.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get a gun? But no, he stabs him over and over and over.
Yeah.
And the movie ends there.
Yeah.
It ends with a zoom in on Arthur Fleck's face, and that's it. That's the movie. And it's essentially commentary on the fact that once you don't live up to what people expect out of you, they discard you. And that's what I got out of it. I don't know what you felt necessarily.
I mean, yeah, I felt the same way. Because at the end, I like the ending.
Yeah, I don't think this movie works without the ending that it has.
It makes sense because of the fact how Arthur Fleck just admitted to the fact that he feels like he wasn't doing the things that he did.
Yeah.
Through the actions of the first one, of just saying how it was the Joker, it wasn't me. I have these issues, and I need to be helped.
Yeah.
Right? And so the ending definitely portrayed that and like showcased more of how that, like the scenes beforehand were and how it was handled.
Yeah. No, because the first one is making some of the same points, kind of, but I do think that this one is like, we don't know if you guys necessarily were sympathizing with him or not, but the only reason they even bring out the Joker persona in this is he's not in this movie for like a really, really long time.
Well, even that though, like even when Joker appears, it's just the appearance, but not Joker being Joker.
And it's kind of out of spite too that he even puts on the makeup in the first place, because they're like, haha, virgin loser, and then he's like, what the hell? Yeah. And that's why he like gets it on in the first place. Because Catherine Keener, who's good in this, by the way, so is Steve Coogan. I liked the interview that you mentioned with them a lot. And
Who?
Steve Coogan, whenever he's like kind of prying Joker to come out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought all of that was great. And
that was great too.
I do think that a lot of the stuff with the people that are interviewing him or talking to him really are only interested in his other persona.
Oh, yes.
That's the only way in which he gets attention.
Well, it catches like everyone's attention.
Yeah. Makes sense. And the guards only ask him, like, do you have a joke for us today? And, like, out of their own amusement. And I do want to touch on the fact that, if we're going to bring up really quick that this movie's shot immaculately, I love the opening tracking shot. It was like a one take. It's throughout the entire prison, and it really lays out the day by day that they have. I thought that was really well done. I do think that this movie is immensely well shot. And
we're seeing in theaters, for sure.
Yeah. If you're, like... Again, if you do not like musicals, that's one thing. It does have enough music that it might piss you off.
But it didn't feel like a musical at times. I felt just music in the background, them dancing. Yeah. And it wasn't actually like them singing as often.
I will say, I do think part of my issue, if I'm going to bring up like the music itself, lies within the fact that I do know that it is his idea of what a musical is. Okay. And so I don't think the choreography...
Is that something that we... are supposed to know already as an audience, or is it something that the director
I think no, that's something that I just sort of thought. Oh, okay. And I don't know if that's Todd Phillips' intention or not. I have read a lot of interviews with them, but they're being kind of coy, like, no, I think they're letting itself feel itself out before they give more commentary on the movie itself. But that's just something that was sort of my takeaway from it. But I do think a negative of that is the choreography could have been a little better as well. Like, I get the intention, but I can also still critique the idea there. But overall, Erwin, what did you think of this movie?
I liked it. I liked it. I have my issues with the movie. I would definitely watch it again, though. Yeah. Just because I do think there could be things like now since I know what to expect, maybe it would change my opinion of the movie as well. Maybe not. I don't know. But overall, I liked it. It has a few problems.
And I'm sort of right there with you, but I'm a bit more positive on it because I do think it has some really, really interesting things to say. The execution's not always at its best, but I love the ambition. I love the fact that this exists. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it is insane that this movie exists. It is not doing well. It critically, financially, anything really.
That's insane. So, comparing how the first one was like quite the opposite.
Yeah, the first one made the biggest amount of money for an R-rated movie before Deadpool and Wolverine, I think.
That's insane.
And this movie made $39 million on a $200 million budget. If you're interested in money, that's how it's doing.
That's insane.
If you're interested in how it's doing cinema-wise with people, and this does piss me off, a D on CinemaScore, really? It is the worst reviewed superhero movie on the audience level ever. And I mean ever.
I haven't seen Madam Web.
And I was about to say, I've seen Madam Web. That movie's horrible. And for some reason, it's going through revisionist history right now. I saw it. It sucks, guys. Don't tell me the visuals in that movie look good. No, they do not.
When you said, just wait. In a year, everyone's going to say Joker.
I'm being serious. Wait, give it a year.
I don't know. I doubt it. I think it's just when you compare it. If it was on a solo level, it's just like the movie itself came out. I can see it. But I think it's because it's attached to something else that people genuinely and generally love, that I just don't see it happen.
And I do love the character of Joker a lot. So me saying this, I know what I'm saying. I know that not everybody's going to agree with us.
He knows what he's saying.
And so does... He liked it too, just to clarify.
Oh, wait.
So in the comments, please let us know what you thought. But before we get into all that, Erwin, what's your score?
3.5 out of 5.
And I gave this a 4 out of 5.
Yo.
I know, it's a great score. I thought this movie was really good. I thought that it's a little too ambitious for itself and how its execution was, but also respect to this movie.
Yeah.
But, Erwin, what are they going to do?
They're going to like, comment, subscribe. Or subscribe, like, comment.
All those things.
Nice.
And please let us know what you thought, but also please be respectful. If you
make sure you watch the movie before you say your opinions.
Yeah, if you're going to actually give commentary on what you thought of this, please make sure you've seen it and not just what you've heard from the people on Twitter or whatever. Yes. If you hate it by earning it. And
do the work. Watch the movie.
It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. You have your work to do with 2 hours and 50 minutes with those fucking trailers that are like 30 minutes long.
Dude, the Nosferatu trailer looks so awesome. Good.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I didn't even need to see that. I just needed to see the... All right. So, what's up next?
I don't know.
We'll have a review for Megalopolis for you.
No, you said it wrong.
And Megacopolis? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And... we're going to still be clowning around next week. We have Terrifier 3.
Are you waiting to say that?
I said it last week, too, and you were like, it's okay.
Oh,
so thank you guys so much.
I kind of like it now.
I'm ahead of my time, just like Joker, Folie À Deux.
Okay.
Joker 2, joking again.
There we go.
Thank you guys so much for listening and watching, and we will see you next time.
I got the sneaking suspicion that we're not giving the people what they want.
It's okay, baby. Let's give the people what they want.